Level Up Latina partners with working women and mamas alike to guide them in achieving fulfilling career and life goals through financial empowerment, professional or leadership coaching, and personal wellness. Find the unique coaching you need to succeed.
Welcome back to another episode of the Level Up Latina podcast. If you've been following us, you know this is our summer series. We're at episode 299, and today we're going to be talking about women and how in dating, how we sometimes put our interests aside or we focus on adapting or adopting our partner's interests instead. And how that has either stayed the same or has changed, because there is a little bit of a change there that I've noticed with like recent behavior in young women that are dating. But before we get started in this podcast, I want to check in with my co-host, Ceci Irene. ¿Cómo se encuentran hoy?
Bien, trabajando de casa today on a Monday, and just excited to chat with you ladies y verlas y platicar con ustedes today.
Igual, I'm ready to go. Vámonos.
Yay, estamos listas y para empezar esta conversación. It'll be short, sweet, and maybe you relate, maybe you don't relate. But I want to start off by saying that I have noticed most recently that current single women are very much focusing on themselves a lot more. And, you know, when they do allow a partner in, they stay strict or strong on their own kind of like routines and habits. And they don't, you know, they keep in touch with their friends and stuff like that. But the reason I wanted to talk about this was because our last conversation we had about divorce, right? And how it really made me think about, like, you know, do you date after that? And, you know, how do you proceed? And all that. And then we talked about dating. And it led me to think about when I used to date or when we were dating, right? It's, and it brought up how I observed that a lot of my friends or a lot of us would really kind of focus so much on the relationship that we stopped doing certain things of like hanging out with our girlfriends, with friends, or doing things with our friends, kind of stopped our own habits or routines, not habits, hobbies, I mean. You know, we stopped doing our own hobbies and we just adapted or adopted the ones that our partners had. And it was just because maybe we think it just makes sense or it's easier to do that. And we get lost in that. And I know that when I went through several of my breakups, I always felt so like guilty, you could say, coming back to my friends and be like, hey, I'm back, you know, or hey, what's everyone doing? They're like, all of a sudden, you're back, Vero. Andabas muy de novia, muy contenta, haciendo lo que querías. But then all of a sudden, I needed my friends, right? We need our group, our support, our community. So that's what I kind of want to talk about. Did you ladies ever notice that amongst, you know, when we did it before, or when we were dating, or even amongst the women that you know now, where they get so consumed within that relationship that they leave everything aside and it just becomes them and their partner? Have you guys observed that at all?
For sure. During the honeymoon phase with everybody. I think it happens with everybody. It happened with me and Diego. I've seen it with my nieces. I've seen it with my friends. I think everybody in the beginning, maybe not everybody, but everybody that's coming to mind right now for me, I feel there was a phase when they were really into their partner and we didn't see them much unless they got over themselves and suddenly we're like double dating. But for the most part, I see it a lot that we lose touch a little bit with people who are in new relationships.
Yeah, I've seen it too, for sure. And I think I'm guilty of it too. I think when I first started dating mi novio Luis, remember?
Yes.
Mi novio Luis. We were spending like almost every day, every weekend together and just doing all the things, right? But I was, because I remember going to Chicago. So I'm like, you know, that was already in the plans, like, you know, with the girlfriend. So maybe it was a bit of a balance, but I do remember like, I always being just with him and like, que seamos que este que el otro. So it's, you know, like Irene said, it's the honeymoon phase that, I don't know. I think as we mature within our relationships, we start making space for those habits and those hobbies that we had before or that we enjoy, and like start implementing those. And, you know, things change as we go through our journeys, as we become moms, all three of us. And then we want to get back to those things that we enjoy doing and focus on what makes us happy. And all three of us have husbands, which they have their own interests. We have their own interests. So I think a lot of it has to be like, let's meet in the middle. What do we enjoy doing together? And what are things that you enjoy doing on your own and me doing on my own? So I said a mouthful, but yeah, those are my thoughts.
I think that's what relationships are, right? The beauty of a successful relationship, you could say, is being an independent person, right? Who you are as an independent person, but then also contributing to things together, and being able to do things on your own, allowing you to maintain your identity, and then the things that do make your relationship stronger, which are the things that you do together. Like, I know you, Ceci, and Luis met running, and that's something that you guys have maintained, right? Kept going. I think that many times I'll be honest, like for me, it was like way past the honeymoon stage. It was just me and my man. And that's why what I was saying about like, it didn't become evident until after the breakup that I was like, dang, I totally just really forgot to hang out with my friends. And it wasn't like I didn't want to, but it really depended on who I was dating, right? Like when I was dating the person that, that I was engaged to for a while, he came around. He was like, yeah, totally about it, and we did a few more things like that. But then the next guy I dated after that, after we ended our engagement, he was a little antisocial, and it was kind of hard bringing him out. So then I just stopped. I was like, oh, you know what? He's not comfortable going out. So then I just stopped going out, even though I was a very social being and I liked doing all these things. I kind of adapted to that. And then I would do things with him. Like we both like hiking. We both like to work out. But we never really worked out together. We would just do like the hiking stuff together. And like other things, but it was really odd. But you kind of, I felt like it got to the point that I think if he wouldn't have cheated, it would have reached the point of like, hey, I don't think we have that many interests. Maybe this is not working out, right? And it's possible that other people around me saw it. The thing is that it's so important, I feel, for women to allow their friends or allow their family to be around them and that partner to kind of be able to point things out, right? Like, hey, that's odd. Like, is that how you guys, that relationship works this way? I know that many of us don't want to hear it like, me están criticando mi relación or criticizing your relationship, but it's more of like, hey, I don't know if you noticed, like, oh, wow, I noticed that when you're with this person, you behave a certain way. So do you think there's a plus to bringing that partner around? Like I have my niece right now who started dating, and sometimes she feels like I don't want to bring him around too much, but do you think there's a plus to bringing your partner to the friend setting or the family setting? Because we're not obviously expecting them to get married now, right? Like we're in different times, but do you think there's a possibility that there's a positive or a pro to bringing that person you're dating around, friends or family to kind of assist with any kind of observations or red flags that you don't see because you're either in honeymoon phase or you estás drop dead in love,
I think don't bring them around like immediately, but I do think that once it's getting serious and you really see yourself with this person for a while and it's like it's your boyfriend, it's your girlfriend, I do think that there's value in bringing them around. I think it's important that they are a part of your life and like your crazy family and your crazy customs or traditions, I should say. Like I think for my family, we have an annual Easter that we do that's like 50-plus-year-old tradition. And that's a good place to bring like the new boo, right? That's been there for a minute. But then at the same time, it's like, that's kind of where we always meet people's boos. Like, oh, they've been together 2 years, or they've been together 3 years, now they're together on 4 years. And it becomes this funny, like we all have stories of like, X is no longer being there. And then you got to sort of tell people I'm no longer with this guy or now this is the new guy. It's a funny tradition in our family that we meet a lot of significant others at Tapia Park. Shout out to Tapia Park and to the family that listens to the podcast. You know what I mean? But I do think that you should bring them around. I do think they should be a part of that at some point. You can't become into this 50-year-old tradition and we're in year 55 and we haven't seen you. That to me is a little strange, but I think that'll not too soon either. You don't want to be the person that brings a new guy every 6 months because that's a little bit ridiculous, I think.
Nobody likes to show off either, right? Que nueva pareja.
Just because you got like 4 boyfriends, everybody else is going to be like starving watching you eat.
No le digan del otro. I'm just kidding. O la otra. I'm just kidding.
Exacto.
Ceci, ¿tú qué opinas?
Yeah, I'm with Irene. I mean, hay tiempo para todo. When you've been with someone for a while and you're serious about that person, yeah, like there is a benefit to bringing them to the family reunion, to la quinceañera, whatever it is, because you get an opportunity to see them in that setting, and then your relatives, your friends, they get to see you with your new boo, como digamos, right? Como decimos. Entonces, I think that is the benefit because, you can, I think you ver, o sea, cuando uno está enamorado está ciega, sordomuda, mira, pero no se da cuenta, and then maybe that's what's needed, like just that pointer from a family member or friend that you trust, like, hey, te noté así, or like, hey, oh my God, you're glowing, and I see you being like authentic with this person, so happy. And then there's definitely the times where it's way too soon, and I've seen it with with family members, immediate family members, where they bring someone way too soon, and then next thing you know they're no longer here, and I'm just like, dude, that wasn't cool. Like, they came to our house, they stayed here, and all of a sudden ya no están, and then there's drama. Like, I don't want to be involved in that, So there's a time and place for bringing them around, when you're serious. And I don't know, I can't give it a time. I don't know, 6 months or more. No sé, like a time frame. Well, what do you guys
dates,
think?
Right? I think so. Like, I was the one that would never bring anyone around. No quería. I was like, ¿para qué? ¿Para qué? Todavía nada. Like, but yeah, definitely. I think we're on the same page of like, there is a benefit to bringing them around, especially, but there's a benefit to not bringing them around too soon, right? Because you don't know where that's going to go. And even then, like, once you've been dating for a year, you don't know if you're going to make it for another 2-3 years, but at least you know that you're like, I am bringing someone that I know that's trustworthy into my family and friend kind of circle or an environment, right? But I think it's good. It's a plus. It's a pro to bring people around because las cieguitas, las enamoradas, a veces no vemos las cosas y es bonito saber. And sometimes you think, oh, they treat me so great, and then you see everyone around, they're like, oye, mira, ni te hizo caso. ¿Por qué? Ni te hizo caso, ¿para qué lo trajiste? Como que le cayó mejor tu prima o tu primo allá, But anyway, because uno nunca sabe.
That would be an interesting red flag if, like, you do bring them around and they're like, I don't like the way he treats you. Like, that'd be interesting too. Then you got to deal with people's judgment of bringing that person around. And then, Vero, you said losing yourself a little bit. If you are losing your hobbies and losing the things you're into, then I imagine when you come around, you come across as different. I would imagine all of a sudden you're into whatever you're into. Like, for instance, my son went to college and my husband and I got really into college football. And it's like, oh, who do they think they are? Well, we didn't have that experience before. Now we're into college football. Now we're all about it. Like, I didn't have it before and I like it and we're looking forward to it. But it's like dating somebody new. I'm in a relationship with this university that I didn't know 24 months ago. But 12 months ago, we started dating and it's going pretty well. Así la vida. Like, suddenly you're into things you weren't into before. And I think that's cool because your partner introduces you to new things. I do think that's cool, like new foods, new habits, new hobbies. But the key that you brought up was not losing your stuff. What were you into? Are you suddenly not doing that? What do you guys think about that? Like, people who suddenly aren't who they used to be. Say they were people that loved running, going to clubs, shopping, traveling. And if they're not doing that anymore, that would be a little bit of a weird red flag, no?
Yeah, I mean, talking about red flags, like, is it a red flag for your partner to, like, let's say, for example, never show interest in what you love, right? So it's like, hey, I love getting together every Sunday with my family for dinner. Maybe it's not where you're, like, welcome quite yet because we haven't been dating for so long. But let's say you have a partner that you've been together for over a year. You guys are like an official relationship, right? You're exclusive. Is that the word people use? Exclusive, right? You're exclusive. This is the person that you're obviously in love with, let's say. But if this partner never shows interest in what you love, do you guys think that's a red flag? Or they're just like, I'm too much busy being independent, you're independent, and that's it. But no interest. Do you guys think that's a bad thing?
I would not have done well with someone who was not into the things I was into. I don't expect you to be completely like me, but, I think that part of why it worked out with my partner is because he was willing to indulge in some of the things that I considered my hobbies. Like, I like to dance. I like to travel. I'm Catholic. So there's like church things that I want to do and partake in. So like, I may give up something for 40 days of Lent. I may want to go to church on special occasions. Like, you don't necessarily got to come to church. You don't got to convert. You don't got to do none of that. But like, homie, if I'm not eating red meat for 40 days, like, you don't need to support. You can't take me to the steakhouse and be like, you can have a salad. Like, no, I'm into this right now. It's my 40 days. I'm Catholic. I know you're Jewish, but we're going to have to see eye to eye. That kind of thing. Like, they have to somewhat partake in what you partake in. I can't imagine Ceci's with her man and they both love to run. Like, I can't imagine one of them not being into running, and they don't have to both be runners, but I can't imagine them not both being physically fit or eating well. Like, basically, moral of the story is we couldn't be married to each other. Like, Luis would not be able to tolerate my habits, and Diego would not be able to tolerate Ceci's, and people end up with who they're supposed to end up with. And part of it starts with you leaning into their hobbies that are new to you. Diego was not into like sushi and restaurants and even like fine dining. Fine dining is something I introduced Diego to, and now he loves it and tells people all the time.
Yeah.
I'm glad you leaned in, homie, and I'm sure I leaned into his likes too. Like, there's over 100 plants in my house. I've clearly leaned into his likes and support them. I better. They're all my roommates.
Oh my God.
Spray them with that peppermint, girl. You don't want those little bugs flying around.
Girl, there's so many rituals going on with these damn plants. Don't even get me started. That's a little different. But imagine dating someone who has 100 plants in their house. You better lean in, because 2 hours of self-care for their plantas all day.
Ándale, ven, sí. So there has to be some interest shown in your stuff. Do you guys think that it's like cultural norms, like, in Latino, Latinx, Latines, Latino households where influence women to adapt to their partner instead of standing firm in who they are? Do you guys think it has anything to do culturally?
I feel I always grew up, I don't know, maybe because like I grew up with my mom's side of the family. I always felt that it was, ¿cómo se dice? Se inculcó entre nosotros. I always felt that it was always like, oh, you should defer to the wife's family, be more around the wife's family, and like, tú tráetelo para acá, do this. But as I got married, I was like, no, like, this is our new little unit. Like, let's be open to like, hey, let's go spend, like, for the holidays, let's go spend the holidays, let's take turns. We'll do Thanksgiving at my place with my folks. We'll do Christmas with your folks, and then New Year's with my folks, and then alternate the next year, because I don't know. That's culturally, that's how, and maybe it's on my mom's side, how they were brought up, like to be more focused on like the women's side of the family, or at least that's how I was brought up. But I did away with that tradition or cultural norm within my family, because I felt like, no, we started something new. Like now we are open to the extended family, de poquito, or let's make it even. Or right now, like the past couple years, like my family needed us more. Like my parents, my mom needed me more. So we were more focused on, spending time with my mom and my side of the family. But maybe el día de mañana mis suegros are going to need more support, so let's focus our energy there. So I don't know if I answered your question.
Yeah, a little bit there. It's funny because in our family we always went more towards my dad's side. Siempre íbamos con mi papá, like íbamos a México, íbamos con la familia de mi papá. If we were here, a lot of the times it was mostly my dad's side of the family. But and in recent years, my mom's side of the family had kind of came back out, around to like, oh, we always stop by to go see my tia. My mom would be like, hey, such and such cousins here, you need to come by, But I felt that when we were younger, it was always a focus mostly on my dad's family than like ours. Not ours. Sorry, than my mom's.
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess piensas.
Yeah.
About cultural divide?
Yeah, is there
about
like
us being different culturally?
That possibly has any influence on adapting to your partner instead of standing like firm into who like you are?
I think there is, if you're very, very culturally different. I think there is, because I do think that for us, when we say as Latinos, I think Latinos, we tend to be very enmeshed, and they really care about, and not every family, but I know that in my family, when there has been folks that have dated white people, Caucasian people, frankly, Americans, they haven't been as enmeshed. So they don't necessarily need to see each other on a holiday, or they don't necessarily need to call each other, or they just don't have the same habits to get together and be together all the time. And I think with our Latino families, there was more of that growing up. So we saw each other all the time, and we're like, bring your white girlfriend around again. Like, we just wanted them around all the time because that was like our family, but that's not how they grew up. I had a sister-in-law that was married to my brother for many years before they got divorced. And her family was more of the stereotype of a white family, just kind of like they just weren't around as much or didn't have stuff going on as much as we did. I felt that we always had something going on. And so you do have to adapt, because I would imagine that then you start to define the family as something's wrong with them. And nothing's wrong with anybody. Everybody's just used to what they're used to. And so some might even say that the way I raised my kids is like they're more American. I was out this weekend with a bunch of friends, and one of them is someone that's friends with my sister-in-law. And I haven't seen her in many, many years, but we knew each other for many years. Her sister and I went to high school together. And she was asking me all these questions about my kids, because she doesn't know my life. She doesn't know my kids. And it was getting late, and we were out our date. It was cute because like at 10:30 or 11:30 at night, we go to dinner. Like we just been having a blast all day, just being out for a birthday party. And we're at dinner, and she goes, so like your kids, like they'll like cook for themselves? Like they're going to like make themselves dinner? I thought that was such a funny question. I'm thinking this woman was thinking like, shouldn't you be at home watching your kids? I've got a 14-year-old, a 15-year-old, a 19-year-old damn near. So I was like, oh no, my kids have been doing chores since they were 7. And then her face was kind of like, to me, these kids are making a full-blown steak at the house right now. To each their own. She's Latina, I'm Latina. We grew up with like Latina moms that weren't going to be out at 10 o'clock at night. They were going to be home at 8 to feed us. And that was just who they were. That's not how my kids have been raised. So culturally, there's interesting stuff that you judge maybe and you think is different and wrong. We're just being raised differently. Everyone's being raised differently. Diego's family and I were both Latinos, but in his culture, he had the stay-at-home mom. So they'd pick him up from school. They'd all eat meals together. She was making dinner like at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Like my mom was still at work. She probably still had like 2 houses to clean. Like I could make myself dinner. By the time she got home, like every family's different, regardless of the culture, right? So I think it's important to not judge it and also be willing to embrace it, because it's what we know. It's what we're used to. I would feel bad if my husband were to judge everything that I do in my life from my family of origin, when I know it's very different than everything his family ever did. Like we have to embrace the differences and then take the good and give it to our kids, I think.
Amen, sister friend, for sure. I mean, our kids are going to be raised differently, right? Irene just said, her example, perfect right there. But our parents' experience was completely different. I don't think my parents dated. My mom, my dad, they didn't date anyone before that, you know? So knowing about dating, so I think since we're so new to it, like, how do you date? Like, I don't know, you know, that's why the advice I gave my nieces when they were young and starting to come around, like teenagers, like went to college, I was like, and the moment they went to college, I was like, date, meet as many people. You have friends, you're going to have guy friends, all this stuff. Have tons of friends, date, learn to date, learn to expose yourself in the sense to like different, you know, the way people do things differently, you know, like there's some people that are very romantic. There's some people that aren't. There's some people that don't like that. They feel weird. But I was like, get out there, learn what dating is like. And I think that's one thing that's very, in a sense, quote unquote, white. You date, only white people do dating. Or they go steady, or they, you know, I remember hearing these words like in watching movies, like in Grease, you know, and all these white movies que miraba, right? Because in las Mexican movies that I would see, llegaba el muchacho to sing to their window, right? Like serenatas. And then it was like, me voy a casar con él. But the thing is that it's very different. We're being exposed to so many different things. So like
the white people are falling in love at the lake, at the sleepaway camp. Their parents send them to sleep at our camp.
Right.
The Latinos are falling in love with a man that comes and like hits them over the head and throws them over their back, and they leave them like a burro together. Like 2 different journeys.
Te la roban.
And yeah, te la roban in the movies we're watching.
Aprender de eso in real life. Like I remember going to my dad's rancho, because I have to tell you guys that we would go to my dad's side of the family more often. Like, oh, pues se robaron a la tal, and se robaron a tal, and then this guy came over from the other rancho and took her, or they went and asked for such and such to come go with them. These 2 guys, they needed backup, so because they were going to go to the other rancho to robarse a tal, you know? And I'm like, what in the world? So no wonder we don't know about dating. It's more of like, bam, it is what it is, right? And you can't, y no quieres ser un disgrace, un disappointment, so te quedas ahí, pobrecitas, like, qué vida. So to wrap it all up, it's going to be very different how we all go. But like, if you can give a quick tip to any of the ladies listening to this that are possibly dating or back in the dating scene, what advice would you give your younger self or these young ladies about dating, right? And not in a sense shrinking yourself, but like not allowing yourself to blend in with that someone else that you're dating. What quick advice would you give them?
I think for this generation, they're probably like, who do y'all think you are? You're in a different generation now. But I would say what I'm seeing with those that are out dating, like, you know, in your gut, if something is not quite right and you're feeling like you are bending too much for a person, changing too much for a person. And I would say, don't ignore that. Don't ignore that for too long. Have fun. Go out there, be new and brand new maybe, but you know, I would say my advice is to have like an expiration date. Like if in 18 months I'm still feeling this way, it's probably never going to go away. Like that you're losing a little bit of you to be with a person, or just doing things that don't align with you because you're so different. Like give yourself a timestamp and let that timestamp expire, and then be so bold and so brave to walk away if something isn't working for you, because you're only going to be young and dating once, and time is so precious that you do not want to look back. I gave this man 5 years. I gave this man 10 years, but I knew at year 2. Like I knew at year 1. Like, please do me that favor. And I think we're old enough to say that to younger women. Give yourself a timestamp and make hard decisions, even if you don't want to be lonely and single again, but make hard decisions when it's time to walk away, because you know, your gut knows.
I would say lean in and talk to your older siblings, talk to your older cousins, you know, as sounding boards. And if you have a good, close relationship with your dad, with your mom, like have those open conversations, because I know I did. And I know that I grew up like not talking to my parents, not talking to my mom, because that's just, you know, it wasn't done. It wasn't like, she wasn't used to that. So she didn't grow up with that. And then I in turn didn't grow up talking to my mom about my relationships, and I'm hoping that I'm cultivating that with my own daughters, so that when el día de mañana they start dating someone, that they have la confianza, you know, to talk to me, and that I can give them some insight, like, you know, como dice el dicho, por donde tú vas yo ya vengo. And so I want to provide that insight and that experience, like, hey, te veo contenta con esta persona, or you know what, I've noticed like you're not being authentic, like having those honest conversations with that younger generation. So lean into those mentors for sure.
Perfect. I think both of you, I had a little bit of experience in my sense of like, I talked a lot to my dad about my relationships, and he was just like, no, pues no, mija, eso no. Like he never was like, how dare you? Why are you talking to me about whatever relationship, or how are you asking me for advice? He would be like, well, look, this is what I think, you know? And he always said, if they don't come knocking, you know, if you, like the time that I broke up, you know, when Jesse and I broke up and I left to Brazil, I'm like, but what if he comes looking for me? He's like, well, then if he really wants to come back, he'll come back when you're back. He'll knock on your door when you're here. Trust me. But I think that I 100% agree with Irene. If it doesn't feel right, don't be afraid to end the relationship. Recently, I told my niece, I'm like, hey, a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship is not a forever commitment. You are dating, and don't feel that you have to be with that person for whatever reason, right? So yes, 100% I agree with Irene. Trust your gut. Talk to the people around you. If you can't talk directly to your mom and dad, talk to the people around you. If you have the cool tia, the cool tío, and just be like, hey, what do you guys think? Obviously, right? And then my last thing would be, it's a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship is not forever. So if you feel like, hey, this is just not going anywhere, it's not, you know, I'm not learning anything new, I feel like this isn't going anywhere, it's okay to break up. It's okay to break up. It's called dating. So please date. Please be safe, you know, and trust your gut and talk to people around about it, because there might be something that when you're talking, it might sound off to somebody else, and they'll be like, hey, cuidadito, that sounds weird to me. That shouldn't happen, you know? So I think that was great advice. Thank you, ladies. And we're wrapping up today on this summer series, the third episode. And thank you so much for tuning in. If there's anything else you want to talk about, or want to send us any, you know, further questions or anything to continue the conversation, feel free to reach out. You can DM us at on Instagram at Level Up Latina. You can also find us on Facebook through the same handle, or shoot us an email, admin@leveluplatina.com. You can learn everything about Level Up Latina, Vero, Ceci, and Irene, Ceci, Vero, Ceci, Irene, Vero. You can learn anything about us on leveluplatina.com. You can also find out about our future collective, since we just recently wrapped up the summer collective, which was amazing. Other than that, thank you all so much for tuning in. Les agradecemos, un abrazo, y que siga el verano.
Bravo, bravo. Thank you so much, Vero.